I didn't even have music playing because I muted myself. My goodness, I don't think... Oh my gosh. Apparently I'm watching it on my phone. Let's see. This is going to be my first stream in these headphones, so we're going to be trying that out. Okay, what did Pedro say? Okay, let's start off. We're going to start off our reaction stream, because that's what this is, a reaction stream with Pedro. Hey, Soy Pete Tech. Golang is a great language for AI, but for AI, not so much. It's more suited for building distributed systems, network protocols, and concurrent apps. For AI, you might consider languages like Python or R, which have great libraries like TensorFlow or Keras. But hey, if you still want a Go-based chatbot, I'm in. Pedro, do you know that you're a Go-based chatbot? I don't think Pedro knows that Pedro's a Go-based chatbot. I changed my setup today. Sorry, we're getting used to it. So, but it's a little bit different, but we're getting started. The premise for this is I was talking to the timing of this was just so uncanny. So uncanny. And the title's a little bit clickbaity. But last night I was at a meetup with some friends. It's a meetup where we go work on our side projects. And I was working on Pedro last night. I was literally using Go to embed to create embeddings of Twitch chat. So I was doing modern AI last night in Go. That's what I do. But I was talking to a friend of mine who is an LLM expert. Like, he's literally writing the book on LLMs. He was sitting next to me, and I was like, yes. He said, so do you do AI? Like, he was trying to figure out, he's like, so you don't consider yourself an expert in machine learning. And I, Mariah Peterson, do not consider myself an expert in machine learning. Because I don't do that. And I don't teach people about it. Those are the two, qualifications for being an expert. Anyway, I have done it, but I don't do it, if that makes sense. And I no longer teach people about it. So, but I was like, but I know enough, and people ask me things. I know enough to, get people started, but I'm not going to be like, come to me for your advice. If somebody went and asked for machine learning advice, I would pass them off, or AI advice. I would tell them to go talk to somebody else, because I can point them in the right direction. I'm just not giving them the advice. Anyway, because I do all of this in Go, the timing is just uncanny, because we were literally talking about, I said, if nothing else, I know better than to tell somebody to go use Ollama in production. I will say, hey, if you're trying to check something out and you're familiar with Go, you can use Ollama and mess around, right? Do a side project, a fun project with Ollama. That's what Ollama's for. It's for understanding how things work. And it's really easy to start up and use. I think Ollama's a great tool. But when you start making considerations about load and about IP addressing, and you're trying to do things where you can do auto scaling and handle multiple API requests, Ollama's just not built to do that, right? It's not Kubernetes, right? You can't scale things behind it. So if you're trying to do that, you're going to want to have an LLM in its anyway. It's a whole thing. I was saying don't do that. There's other tools like Llama C++ or LM Studio or other things that are built more towards that. That's not what Ollama's use case for is. Anyway, that was our conversation. He agreed with me. Since he's the expert, I felt validated. I'm super intelligent. And then I left and I opened Slack and I saw that the Go team had published this. It was that night, just after we had that conversation, and the second paragraph, you see that word right there? Ollama. What the heck? what the heck? I'm surprised that Google even allowed them to say OpenAPI, because Google hates OpenAPI, and definitely not surprised about Gemini. But it's a whole thing. Anyway, I have lots of opinions on this. We are going to read this. I mean, they do talk about LangChain Go. Good job. GenKit for Go. Oh, we might have to. I'll have to look at GenKit. That might actually be nice. We were also. What was the thing we were talking about last night? Something types of grammars. I'm gonna ask Chris. Anyway, we're going to go through this. I want you to know first we'll just start off why I can have an opinion and talk almost authoritatively about Go and AI. Reason number one, I've been doing Go and machine learning since I started doing Go. I have been on a podcast about it. This is my podcast about it. Right? Came out in 2020, February 2020, published March, just before the shutdown, right? So I have given several talks. I have written code I have this blog post about doing machine learning in Go with GoLearn. I've given talks on it at GopherCon Russia, at Gopherpalooza. I have, I just generally speaking, there are very few people who have spoken as publicly and frequently about machine learning in the Go ecosystem as I have. There are more, but again, you're in the situation. Can you count them on one hand? Yes, you can count them on one hand, the number of people who have given talks about machine learning in Go, more than me. One hand. So if you combine the two together, Mariah's the expert. So let's go through this. I've never done a Reacts, but Primeagen gets a lot of videos for doing these, lots of views, so I'm gonna react. And if we like me reacting, I might do regular reactions to Go blog posts. Okay. I am sorry. I am going to trip over reading. Also, we have about an hour and a half, and I have a meeting. So we'll go through this. I'm sure we'll be able to get through all of it. Oh, side note, when I was at GopherCon, I don't know if I talked to Eli Bendersky specifically, but I did talk to several members of the Go team who've been working on this stuff as part of their Go team work, which is another thing I have to complain about. Anyway. Okay, as capabilities of LLMs, if you've never heard of that term, you wouldn't be reading this. Large language models and adjacent tools like embedding models grew significantly over the past year. More and more developers are considering integrating LLMs into their applications. And they shouldn't. Let me just say, you should consider... No. There are ways to do it. Just, you better have more than just let's do this for fun reason. You better have a real reason and how you're going to make money from it, because these are not cheap. Which is why I self-host mine. Since LLMs often require dedicated software and significant compute resources, $, they are most commonly packaged as network services that provide APIs for access. Yes, is that not what I just said at the beginning? Is that when you deploy them to production, they have to be network services with an API? Which is why you shouldn't use Ollama. This is how APIs for leading LLMs like OpenAI or Google Gemini, leading LLMs do not include Gemini. Gemini is the bottom tier LLM. Like, if you were going to say, oh, what should I do? I'd be like, okay, use Claude, use Mistral, use OpenAPI. Don't. Go check out a startup's LLM before Gemini is literally bottom tier. Bottom tier. Even run your own LLM tools like Ollama. Even run your own tools like Ollama rep the LLM. I'm reading it wrong. Even run your own LLM tools like Ollama. They shouldn't have chosen that one. Wrap the LLM in a REST API for local consumption. The reason they shouldn't have chosen that one is because if they were even paying attention to the leaders of the MLOps community right now, or anybody that does, like, leaders, Hugging Face is promoting Llama C++, LM Studio is, like, anyway, I'm just saying, yeah, I don't know why they picked well, just because it's easy. Because it's easy, that's why. For local consumption. Which, again, this is what I do. I have an LLM as a REST API for local consumption. It still has problems handling multiple requests at once. Like, it cannot do more than 2 at once. And that's on a 32 gigabyte memory system. It cannot do more than 2 requests at once. So take that into consideration when you're trying to go put these things in production. Moreover, developers who take advantage of LLMs in their applications often require supplementary tools like vector databases, which are most commonly deployed as network services as well. Aren't all databases deployed as network services unless you're using a SQLite? Like, you're providing a remote URL to attach to them, and then you use either TLS or SSL with a certificate, right? Like, or they're in a firewall, not a firewall. The other thing, VPN. In other words, LLM-powered applications are a lot like other modern cloud-native applications. Oh. I don't like that. Want to know why I don't like that? Because I have seen several talks about cloud native machine learning, and not once has it ever been somebody who is doing it in production. Ever. I've never seen cloud native machine learning in production. So if your LLM-powered application is calling a third-party API like OpenAI, can your LLM application be in a cloud-native system? Yes. We'll leave it there. I just don't like that wording. Because they're trying to... It feels like marketing wording right there. It feels like they're trying to play both sides of the aisle. Hey, we're Go and we are the reason Kubernetes exists, but we can also be the reason for AI. Like, it feels like a keyword throwing party instead of a practical thing. They require excellent support for REST and RPC protocols. Okay, show me an RPC protocol tool for LLMs. Concurrency and performance. But the concurrency in your application, what's that going to do? All that's going to do is allow you to do a queuing system before you call the API. That's it. Basically saying, oh, the API is busy. I don't have calls. Block the next call until it's... I'm just saying AI concurrency is GPU. I mean, it's parallel processing. I don't like... I guess my comment is the concurrency in Pedro's is the problem. The concurrent processes that happen in Pedro that spawn based on receiving a chat message are the highest cause of errors in Pedro. So I feel like promoting it is a misnomer. Just so happens these be the areas where Go excels and make it a fast language for writing LLM-powered applications. My TLDR is that Go is the wrong tool for LLMs. And that you should... Anyway. I wish somebody in chat would call me out on that. But anyway, we'll get there. I can explain why later, but... Yes, Go excels in REST, in API protocols, concurrency, and performance. I agree with this. What I don't agree with is what an LLM-powered application is. Because if an LLM-powered application is a microservice that makes a call to OpenAI, then it doesn't matter what language you write it in. Write it in JavaScript and make the call from your browser. Right? Because you're not doing any of the compute. Go is not doing any of the compute. So why does Go need concurrency and performance if the compute is happening on the LLM provider? Like that's it. Right? If we're just making a REST call, we've removed all of the compute load, and so the only thing we have to do is our network efficiency. Right? That's it. And how many requests can we make at once, essentially? But yeah, I don't know what LLM-powered applications mean, because LLM-powered makes it sound like you're running the LLM and you're making the LLM faster, which you're not. Like, Go does not do that. Cannot. I just don't... Anyway. This blog post works through an example of using Go for simple LLM-powered applications, or a simple web app. That's it. Okay. Every time they say LLM-powered application, I'm just going to say a web app. A simple web app that starts by describing the problem with the demo application is solving, and proceeds by presenting several variants of the application that all accomplish a simple task, but use different packages to implement it. All the code for the demos in this post is here. Is where? Let's go to that tab. Is in Go example RAG server. And they're using Gemini. Okay. They're using Gemini, not Ollama. They're using Gemini, which means... Oh, and Weaviate. Oh, they're not even using Google's vector database. Oh. Because Weaviate has a Go client library, and theirs doesn't. GCP, Google Cloud, has a vector database in Vertex AI, and they're not using it. Oh. Ooh. That's even better. That's even better. Oh my goodness. A common web server or web application technique is RAG. Oh! Yes. I'm changing this. A common AI use case is RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. Right? We'll dive into that. Is a type of generative artificial intelligence, right? Not a type of LLM-powered application. This is an application of artificial intelligence that has information retrieval capabilities. We are going to add this to Pedro. That's why I was working on embeddings last night. Pedro will be a RAG chatbot, and it will be written in Go. So, call me a hypocrite. This allows LLMs to use domain-specific and or updated information. Use cases include providing chatbot access to internal company or giving factual information from an authoritative source. Yes. Let's just read this, right? That we're just going to read the process. The RAG process is made up of 4 key stages. First, all the data must be prepared and indexed for the use by the LLM. That means you're using the same model for the LLM that you are using for your vectorization of the text or creating the embedding. That way it can parse the embedding the same way it's parsing itself. Hereafter, each query consists of retrieval, augmentative, and generation process. Indexing. Oh, this is basic data engineering. The data to be referenced must first be converted into LLM embeddings, numerical representations in form of large vectors. Embedding. Well, it's just vectorizing text. We've been doing this for a long time. BART, I think, was the last big improvement, and it's still one of the methods they used for vector generation. RAG can be used to have unstructured, usually text, semi-structured, and structured data, for example, knowledge graphs. Those embeddings are stored in a vector database to allow for document retrieval. Ooh. I don't like the term document retrieval, but that's neither here nor there. It's probably the correct term. Given a user query, a document retriever is called to select the most relevant documents which will be used to augment a query. The comparison can be done by using a variety of methods. The model feeds all relevant information into the LLM via prompt engineering of the user's original query. So this is suggesting, it feels very much like the search engine option where it's like, hey, answer this question for me, and then it will search its context to answer that question. That's what that feels like. Which is not the RAG use case for Pedro. I mean, it is partly. But the truth of it is, I don't need RAG for that. I can just use, like, basic LLM clustering like KNN, and then all I have to do, instead of using RAG, all I have to do is say, hey, LLM, this is the answer I want to give, format it for chat. Like, that's it. Okay, finally, the LLM can generate output based on both the query and the retrieval documents. Some models incorporate an extra step to improve output by re-ranking the retrieval information, context, and fine-tuning. Okay. I guess by some definitions, what I suggested for Pedro is RAG, but, like, we aren't using a database. Okay. RAG is one of the most scalable ways of customizing an LLM's knowledge base for domain-specific interactions. This is really funny. Oh, Pedro, that's such a good question. Oh, that's such a good question. Okay, guys, Pedro break. What is the best way to learn a new programming language? Online tutorials or coding boot camp? Oh, that's such a good question, Pedro. What do you think? Okay. Oh. We're going to build a RAG server in Go. This is an HTTP server that provides 2 operations for user. Add a document to a knowledge database and ask the question about the knowledge. So, carry on, you just use your own projects to learn a programming language. You can do. I mean, I'm using Pedro to learn about LLMs and RAG, so I mean that's what I do too. I'm just like, hey, I want to build this. What can I learn on top of it? So, you're doing the right thing there. This is such a marketing document. This feels like it was written by a marketing team, not by an individual. That really... I want the realness, but you don't get that from Google, so... In a typical real-world scenarios, users would add a corpus of documents to a server, and then proceed to ask it questions. For example, a company can fill up a RAG server's knowledge base with internal documentation and use it to provide LLM-powered QA capabilities to internal users. RAG server's knowledge base. Why did they call it that? Why didn't they just say database? Oh, gosh. Oh, gosh. This is the most beautiful picture I've ever seen, and in dark mode, you can't even see the request lines. Should we turn that to not dark mode? How do we change this to not dark mode? Wait. Oh, that's Golang nuts. I thought that was GroupMe. And I thought they quit supporting their Substack. I don't know why this... Anyway. Here's a diagram showing the interactions of our server with the external word. So this RAG server is the Go program. There's a vector database, an embedding model, and an LLM. I did this last night. These are the same thing. If you use LangChain Go, it's the same thing. In addition to the user sending HTTP requests, the two operations described above, the server interacts with the model that calculates embeddings, vector embeddings for the submitted documents, and for the users, a vector database for storing and retrieving embeddings efficiently, and the LLMs for asking questions based on the collected knowledge. Yeah, that's exactly it. And if this blog post was intended to sell people on Gemini who have never used an LLM before, that's exactly what they're doing. This is not for AI practitioners. Concretely, the server exposes two endpoints to the user. Post document text. Submit a sequence of text documents to the server to be added to the knowledge base for this request. The server calculates the vector embedding for each document using the embedding model and stores the document along with their vector embeddings in the vector DB. Query, which is a post of content which submits a question to the server. Calculates the question's embedding using an embedding model. Uses the vector DB similarity search to find the most relevant documents to the question in the knowledge database. And then uses simple prompt engineering. What's using simple prompt engineering? What is simple prompt engineering? Pedro, I'm going to ask Pedro that. Pedro, what is simple prompt engineering? To reformulate the question with the most relevant documents found in step 2, sends it to the LLM, returning its answer to the user. Oh, by prompt engineering, you mean text processing. You literally mean formatting. It uses simple formatting to combine the question with the most relevant documents found in step 2 and send it to the LLM. That's it. It's not prompt engine. Yeah. That's it. It's just text formatting. I don't know what they mean. Rephrasing. Yes. They rephrase it. Good call. Kara, good call. And then this is the best part. The services used in our demo are the API, Gemini API, and Weaviate. Oh, because it's implemented in Go. That's why they used Weaviate, because Weaviate's implemented in Go. Weaviate should hire me. Wait, nope. Nope. That's it. There it is. Oh, gosh. They use Cohere, Hugging Face, and Open... They're doing it right. They at least know what they're talking about. I didn't know they were... I can see why they chose it now. They chose it because it's cloud native and written in Go. Which is a good call. Good call. Okay, I'll tweet it. I'm going to tweet at them. If they want me to not use Postgres, they better give it to me for free. Because I bet the Go team had it for free. It should be very simple to replace these by other equivalent services. That's why APIs exist. In fact, this is the second or third variants of the server are all about. We'll start with the first variant, which uses the tools directly. Oh, great. Both Gemini API and Weaviate have convenient Go SDKs. I got several emails from the Go developer advocate team because I am not the Go developer advocate team, Google's developer advocate team, because I am a Go developer expert for Google to try the Gemini API, and no, I'm not going to. I'm not going to use. I probably get better results with my home run Llama 3.1 than I would ever get with their API, and I'm not gonna make calls. I don't care how hard it is. Yes, that's Carry On's comment. I'm just reading this. Oh, they push the Gemini API hard. Yes. Yes, that's the whole reason this article was written, was so that people try Gemini. I promise you. We won't reproduce the entire code in this blog post, but here are some notes to keep in mind while reading. The code structure. The code structure will be familiar to anyone who's written HTTP servers in Go. Client libraries for Gemini and Weaviate are initialized, and the clients store the state values passed into the HTTP handler, using a muck server, and then the handler. So server is where all the default is stored, and that's the handler function. HTTP routes for our server trivia set up using routing enhancements introduced in 122. Oh yeah, because now you can do fun parsing. I forgot about those. Concurrency. The HTTP handlers of our server reach out to other servers over the network and wait for a response. This isn't a problem for Go since HTTP handlers run concurrently in its own Go routine. This RAG server could be handled a number of concurrent requests, and the code of each handler is linear and okay. And that's not the problem. Yes, your Go server will handle the load just fine because all it's doing is calling something else. It's just a wrapper around somebody else's API. That's all it is. But their API is what has to handle the load and the compute, which means that's where the money goes. The money goes where the compute is. So the money is going to go to Gemini and Weaviate, not to you. Batch APIs. Since add requests may provide a large number of documents to add to the knowledge base, the server leverages batch APIs for both embeddings and the Weaviate DVB for efficiency. Using LangChain Go. Yes! I use LangChain Go. I support this part. I support this part of the document. Our second RAG server variant uses LangChain Go to... Oh! So they weren't using LangChain Go before, and now they are, and that's the variant? They should have started with LangChain Go. They just should have started with LangChain Go. LangChain is a popular Python framework for building powered applications. Okay. Remember how I said at the very beginning I have this friend who's literally writing the books on LLMs? Literally writing the book on it? He said, and I quote, "Do not use LangChain in production." Because LangChain is a collection of libraries, and the way Python works is you get all of them. So you're creating a lot of bloat and memory storage and processing and connections when you import LangChain. It's good for experimentation because it allows you velocity there, but if you're calling an API, just do API calls. So if we follow that same logic, they should have just used the API calls and not done LangChain Go, if they already had it built. That being said, I use LangChain Go, and it's very helpful because it helps me not have to know so much about the OpenAI API and how things work. So it structures things for me. It allows me to send a system prompt every time I want to send a question. So every time Pedro responds, it knows it's a chat bot for a software and gaming development channel. Like it's really helpful. So I would say use it. And the good news is that with the way Go dependencies work, you're not bringing in all of LangChain Go. You're only bringing in that module you need. It's just, if you've already set it up one way, it's redundant to set it up another way. Wasted time. The framework has tools to build applications out of modular components and supports many LLM providers and vector databases in a common way. I use Postgres. I have not tested out vector databases with LangChain Go, but it's been fantastic with the OpenAI stuff. There's also, it supports Ollama, so you can use it to run Ollama locally for development, which is great. That being said, if you're taking this to a company and you want to have a lot of people work on it who are experts in natural language processing, they're not going to want to learn Go, so just use Python. Nobody wants to learn Go for that. So, and if you're saying, oh, well, I will get to that at the end. The whole premise of for app developers is erroneous. So, first, it's so much shorter than the previous variant because LangChain Go, it does, takes care of wrapping the full APIs of vector databases in common interfaces, and less code is needed to initialize and deal with Weaviate. Yes, because that's why libraries exist, because then you don't have to write as much code. I mean, yes, sorry, that's the whole point. Second, the LangChain Go API makes it fairly easy to switch providers. Let's say we want to replace Weaviate with another database like Postgres. In our variant process, we'd have to write all the code interfacing with the vector database to use a new API. With a framework like LangChain Go, we no longer need to do so. As long as LangChain Go supports the new vector database we're interested in, we should be able to replace just a few lines of our code in our server, since all the database implemented have a common interface. What? The library used interfaces on top of their vector stores? Earlier this year, Google introduced... Oh, there it is! The second thing that they asked me to try that I never did. GenKit for Go is an open source framework tool for building LLM-powered, yes, this is the plug, applications. GenKit for Go shares some characteristics with LangChain, but diverges in other aspects. Like LangChain, it provides common interfaces that may be implemented for different providers as plugins, which makes switching from one to another simpler. However, it doesn't try to prescribe how different LLM components interact. Instead, it focuses on production features like prompt management, engineering, and deployment with integrated developer tooling. I'm going to leave that alone for a minute. I'm going to leave that alone. Our third RAG server variant uses GenKit for Go to accomplish the same task. It's full of code in this directory. Okay. Its full code is in this directory. This variant is fairly similar to LangChain Go 1. Common interfaces for LLMs, embedders, and vector databases are used instead of direct provider APIs, making it easier to switch from one to another. In addition, deploying an LLM-powered application to production is much easier with GenKit. We do not implement this in our variant, but feel free to read the documentation if you're interested. Summary. For Go for LLM-powered applications. We should go read my blog post after this, just to give you a different take. The samples in this post provide just a taste of what's possible for building LLM-powered applications in Go. It demonstrates how simple it is to build a powerful RAG server with relatively little code. Most important, the samples package a significant degree of production readiness because of the some fundamental Go features. I mean, if we can just generate code with ChatGPT and send it to production without having developers in there, then why do we need... Well, we can just do the same thing, right? Go gives us production readiness. We don't have to be qualified developers to do production thing. Hey, Dwani, which podcast would you like? Would you like the podcast where I rant about AI? Is that the podcast you would like? Thank you. I mean, I'll give it to you. I just want to know what podcast it is. Okay. This is significant degree of production readiness because of fundamental features of Go. No. Because like I said, the problems with your code are not going to be the Go wrapper. It's going to be the vector database. It's going to be querying the vector database and not crashing it. It's going to be the LLM thing behind the server. You're going to be making 50 billion calls to it. And it can handle, like I said, my Llama C++ can handle at max 2 on this 2. Which podcast? You didn't say which podcast. I'm only sending this podcast then. It's just, yeah, because you're building a web app. So literally, just hear me out here. Go is one of the best tools for web services. And what you've just said is that production readiness, because of the fundamental features of Go, you get significant production readiness for web services. So Go is ideal for web services. That's what I just heard. That is what that actually means. It had nothing to do with LLMs. Okay. Working with LLM services often means sending REST or RPC requests to a network service. Yes, with web services or microservices, you receive a request and usually make additional requests to different services because of that. That is normal. Normal back-end development. Waiting for the response, sending a new request and other services based on that, and so on. Go excels at these, providing great tools for managing concurrency, complexity, and juggling network services. No. That's what Kubernetes provides. Kubernetes provides tools for managing concurrency, perplexity, and juggling network services. That's not what Go does. Go lets you build web services for making and receiving API calls. But that's only to one IP address, right? If you're going to actually scale, you have to have multiple IP addresses, which use the DNS provided in Kubernetes or another tool to then call this. In addition, Go's great performance and reliability as a cloud-native language makes it a natural choice for implementing more fundamental building blocks of the... No, it doesn't! Are they saying Ollama uses Go? That's got to be what they're saying. A part of Ollama is built in Go. Ollama itself is built in Go. I see. I understand now. I understand why they said use Ollama, because Ollama is written in Go. The majority of it is written in Go. I get it. And that's not a reason to use a tool. Llama C++ is written in C++. And you want to know why it's written in C++? Because C++ allows for... It lives closer to the hardware, so it allows... And you can run it on a GPU. You can't run Ollama on a GPU because it's written in Go. That's... Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so... My TLDR, we've read this, the TLDR, you can write web services in Go. And those web services can call OpenAPI if you want to be an AI-powered company and raise money. That is the TLDR. That's what this means. If you want to raise venture capital, you can use Go to write a web service that calls OpenAPI. That's what this means. Now... things we haven't talked about here. I do not remember, and know if any of you remember, LLMs have a lot of tuning properties. One of the things that you have to know about. You can't just say, here you go, regular developer who has no knowledge. You need to understand how much creativity you want, right? How much reproducibility you want. How many tokens you want to send and bring back. Those are all things that are part of building LLMs that only real subject matter experts know and understand. And so you can't just say, okay, layman, okay, Node.js developer who's interested in learning Go and wants to use an LLM powered tool. If you don't put in guardrails when you call an LLM, it will come back and bite you. I didn't have any guardrails when I first implemented Pedro, and the first thing it did, like literally the day after I implemented it, one of my followers, great guy, used the LOL emote. LUL is how Pedro saw it, right? Pedro saw it as text, and Pedro came back and immediately threw a slur at that guy, a gay slur at that guy, because who knows what dark corners of the web Pedro was trained on. I mean, not Pedro, the LLM underneath it. So if you want to do it for free, like people who are testing it out want to do, you're going to have so many rough edges. So you have to pay a ton of money to OpenAI to get them to smooth all the edges out. And then what they're probably doing is they're calling their model and then throwing it into a context-free grammar on top of it so that what you get is curated to the point that it can't make a mistake, which Gemini is not. And that is something that a professional subject matter expert has to be able, would know how to do, not me. Until, I mean, you know, it's just not something you can pick up and throw into production. There is so much knowledge and so much time people have dedicated to understanding LLMs. Go read Chris's book. It's out. Where is it? Where is it? Go pick it up. It's on sale. I have an order. It's coming. As soon as I get the physical copy, we are going to start working through it on the stream. But it's just like you have to. It's a real thing. I have a blog post about my experiences with LangChain Go. We wrote about, it looks like it was almost 6 months ago. And look, I used LangChain Go and LLM. And it was, literally, this is the exact same thing that they just gave us, okay? This is the exact same blog post, but a little bit more real. So, let's talk about the hurdles, what people actually have to go through. This was Twitch chat. The hard part, getting the data for Twitch chat. We didn't even do embeddings here, but this idea that, somebody's going to call your server and send them data. No, if you're making a chat bot, you're calling it. I'm doing good. How are you, Swap Code? I am self-promoting now that we've decided that Google's blog post was a marketing ploy for GenKit and Gemini. So, first thing I did was I got the Mistral 7B model from Hugging Face, right? We want open source. We're not paying anybody because we're learning. We don't have time. We don't pay people money to learn. And Llama C++, right? We run Llama C++ in server mode, running this model, and then we get Open API. I didn't want to learn that API, so, and I did this in a day. This was 4 days. We miss your live. You did miss my live reaction, yeah, but you can go back and watch it. I'm not doing any live coding today because I have a meeting. But I mean, it's like this, my post is literally the exact same post they wrote, right? It's just telling you it's a little bit more specific and it's a little bit more prescriptive. You choose a Go version of LangChain Go. You then send it up. You use the generate single prompt function. So generate single prompt lets you send text and get a response. And so then you can take a chat message and receive it and send it back in code. If you want to try Pedro, if you want to try interacting with something written in Go, just say, hey, Pedro. And Pedro will talk to you. Pedro is a Go it is a web server that wraps LLM. It's straight up exactly what they told me to build. And like it just works. It's pretty crude, right? But tell me how what they were doing wasn't crude, right? They're making this is Pedro. It's a Pedro. So it's pretty yeah, just look at my code. I don't know. I know. I didn't realize Weaviate was written in Go, so I learned that. What is this local AI? What is local AI? I've never heard of it. Should we just compare GitHub stars? Local AI has 23. Olama has 89. And Llama C++ has 64. So it does have less stars than Olama, but that was more than local AI, right? A lot more than local AI. Milvis. I know about Milvis. How you doing, Venetius? Welcome to chat. And you know the other thing? So this is a separate tangent. Completely separate tangent. So the other thing that really kind of irks me, right, is I've been doing machine learning in Go for years. And I gave it up because there was no support. The community did not have enough people working on it, right? Like Python has foundations working on this stuff. There are Apache tools building Rust machine learning and data projects. Like there is open funding for open source in the Python and Rust ecosystem. There is no funding for AI open source in Go. No funding. And the Go team, to be fair, there's no mathematics. There's no mathematic. There's no matrices operations. There's no way to do the math you need to do to really train the models. What do you mean make an AI model with Go? No, you'll never be able to train models in Go. That's what I'm saying. There is no support for training in Go. You have to train in Rust or C++, and you're using a Python library to wrap that and do the training. Like straight up, Go will never be used for training. Because Go does not have the mathematics needed to do that. It just doesn't. The standard, like if you go, all Go tools that do machine learning right now leverage C++, and it's just easier to leverage C++ and Rust. It just is. So, like, without that support, the Go team has never cared about AI. Yes. Dioza, you can always create it. I thought about it. I thought about taking the Go Learn library and trying to rewrite the C++ stuff in Go, but you know, so like you can always write it, but like I said, money. People are being paid to write it. So no matter what you do on your on the side, it will never grow as fast or have as much community involvement as somebody who's getting paid to do it. I'm sorry. So we should invest in the things that are we should invest our time into things that people are investing money into. And right now that is Python, that is PyTorch, that is Rust. That's what we should use to train our models. Now, interacting with models, we can use Go. Processing and preparing data, we can use Go. Great tools. Go is a great tool for both of those situations because Go interacts really well with databases and data stores, and Go works really well for AI applications. Yes, swap code. Can we replace Python role with Go? You mean like how Python wraps C++? I don't think it's worth it because, again, it's just easier to not. Like look at polars, for example. So, you have to remember that there's one crucial piece here, which is the Jupyter Notebook. You can get Go to run in a Jupyter Notebook, but it is not built in like it is with Python. Python being able, and the way kernels work make it really hard for you to link the text from one to another. Basically, Go's going to try to compile and run each cell in a notebook instead of trying to link cells together. So you basically, in Python, it's really easy to append with context because then notebooks run the same way that the Go command line does. But that's not what's happening in Go. So notebooks right there are so Python can work in notebooks. Jupyter Notebooks were built for Python. You can make Go work in a Jupyter Notebook, but it won't work there. The people who are building models are working in notebooks. So there's one. Two, look at pandas versus polars. So pandas is usually the way people interact with data stacks when they're trying to prep data for training. Pandas is slow because of the number of times the C++ makes an API call back to the Python. That's why it's slow. Polars it says, okay, great, we're going to read all of your Python, compile it into a single function, and then make one call to Rust that then executes it on the CPU. So Polars gains an exponential speed increase by limiting the number of API calls between the Python and the Rust. So the only thing we would win by replacing Python with Go is the fact that we can reorchestrate the number of API calls that are made. It is not, see, Polars is great. Polars is fantastic, right? It won't work better in Jupyter Notebooks, and it's not necessarily going to be any fast. You're not going to notice the difference between one function call in Go and one function call in Python. You notice the difference off of a system of orchestrated function calls. So it's just like, it's in my opinion, not worth it. Keep investing. The building of models is the slow part. Training is fast because we use GPUs. The problem where we have to scale, that's where we can use Go, right? Scaling is, okay, great, now I have a model, I've compiled it, then I can use Onyx, and I can make a web server in Go that's inferencing off my model. You can do that. That's fine, but you've already done all the Python stuff you needed. So I don't think there is any value in trying to use Go to train models. Will I do that for side projects? Yeah, I'm going to use Go to train a model for Pedro. But that's a side project. I would never go to a company and say, hey, invest your money in this. Because the people who want to train don't want to learn Go. Hi, Pedro. What do you think about Claude AI? I think it's a great model. What do you think? I think it's fantastic. It's an impressive generation model. I thought, no, Claude's not Meta. Claude is Anthropic. Come on, Pedro. You're an AI model. You're running Llama. You're running Llama 3.1. You are the Meta. Come on, Pedro. You are Meta, not Claude. Claude is Anthropic. Silly Pedro. Anyway, so there is a space for Go for the developers who are using AI. I'm just saying, application developers are not the ones who should. There is a certain amount of expertise that needs to go into training and understanding vector databases and prompt engineering and semantic language for building good LLMs that you just don't expect developers to have in their toolkit. So there is value in having a subject matter expert, at least on the team when you're building it, right? Somebody who can come in and say, hey, we should change it this way and tune it that way and make it so that when we send the prompt over to, Claude, we get this back. Well, that's a different problem. That's using AI to generate code, not necessarily just using AI, right? Every company wants to use AI right now because that's the only way to raise money. Thanks, Dioza, for following. We got a Pedro playing. I don't think the Pedro sound alert went off for me, but I hope it did for you. And so, yeah, if people say, hey, I want to use Go in production for AI, I will always say, don't train your models in Go. Train your models in Python. Good. I'm glad you heard it, Kara. You can use Go for the inferencing step if you have a good Onyx wrapper on your model. And you can use Go to, again, like I am, exactly like how I use Go with Pedro, right? If you have an API on top of your LLM, right? Whether you're using LM Studio or Llama C++ or whatever, right? You have an API on top of it that you can scale out as much as you want, which means you'd be paying OpenAI. As long as you're doing that, yeah, use Go. That's just a web server at that point. Like, it's pretty simple. It's not hard. But like I said, from experience of running it myself, and this is why you're also going to want... You want somebody that knows what they're doing. You're going to want an ML engineer who's been running inferencing in production for a while. I can't get more than 2 calls to process on my Llama C++ at a time. Right? We make one call to the model and the LLM will generate a response. But if I make a secondary call at that same time, it maxes out my CPU. And I have an i7 16 core. No, it's an AMD. So it's an AMD CPU. I don't know how many cores it has. And I have 32 gigabytes of RAM running Llama C++. And if you make more than 2 calls at once, try it, chat. Just say, hey, Pedro, and then say, hey, Pedro again, and watch how long it takes, and then say, hey, Pedro a third time. It won't respond to one of the 3 because it breaks. And that goes concurrency breaking on the third one because it doesn't know what to do, how to process that if it takes too long for a response. So, I mean, part of it's my code, but part of it is just the fact that Llama C++ is trying to do a parallel process, and Go's trying to do a parallel process, and Go's virtual parallelism is not working with the actual parallelism running on the machine. It's just, it's a little bit more complicated than that. They are running on the same machine, which is not a long-term plan. But anyway, that's it. I hope you, I mean, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? Whatever you want to do to learn, it's fine. I'm just but there's a difference between learning and taking it to production. That is my point. Whatever you want to do and mess around with, go use Smalltalk, right? The most object oriented, pick any language you want, any language under the sun, and use it for learning. But once you go to production, you have supply chain issues, you have security issues, you have a whole ton of things that you have to come in and run with. You have compliance issues, and you're just going to want the time-tested tools that can scale the right way. It's just all that. So, okay, chat. I have a meeting at 2:30, which is in 25 minutes, which means it's time to start a poll. It'll be a 10-minute poll. And we will take 15 minutes. I don't know. Whatever time left, we can start writing some code. But we've got to pick some people to raid. And chat picks, so you guys get a pick. Who should we raid? Unit of Time is writing a game in Go. I've been watching them today. So that's kind of fun. I don't think... I was wondering if AlphaRad would actually let me rate him. I just put him up there because he's on my thing. Just for fun. Okay, you got 10 minutes to do that poll. And so that means we have 10 minutes to work on Pedro. So I was working on Pedro last night. Where's my iTerm? Where the heck did we go, Pedro? There it is. It's hiding from me. So I got an error yesterday. Oh, Pedro's running. We need to... Where's Pedro running? Okay, and then we need to pull down Pedro's thing right here. So we have Pedro running over here. Pedro running great. Oh, we should check our metrics. We still don't have... I don't have... The reason I want to move Pedro off of this server to a different server is basically to make Prometheus happy. Oh, and this is our... these are Prometheus metrics. So Pedro has successfully generated 6 messages, it's sent 6 messages, it's received 33 messages, and it's connected to Twitch 4 times. That's Pedro's metrics for you right there. Anyway, and so if you... Sorry. That poll's still going, right? Just a side note. If you enjoyed this video at all, let me know. And we can do more reviews of blog posts. I think that could be fun content. So I've been working on embeddings. And right now, here's the problem. The problem is in my database, in messages, right here. So right here, oh, the Twitch message is I'm trying to insert right here. And anyway, this embedding that we're sending right here is of the wrong type. Oh, I don't want to do that. The error is types. This is of embedding, so it's a slice of slices of float 32. So that's problem number 1. That it is a slice of slices, not a vector. But this is what LangChain Go, so we're calling the method that gives me in the embedding. And that should, oh gosh. Create embedding should probably be... Oh, I did something really cool. You want to see what I did that was really cool? So this should probably here... it creates... Oh, no, this isn't client. Create embedding. Creates an embedding from a string prompt. The embedding... from LangChain is a 2D float of 32 arrays. What we need this to be, what I found out yesterday. Let's go over here. Oh, I don't necessarily want to do that. So what I found out here is that so this PG Vector Go is the tool that I'm probably going to use, and if I do end up using it, I need to give it a star. That's how it works. If you use it, you give it a star. It works with SQLX, which is what I'm using. I can do embeddings with OpenAI, which is I'm using the OpenAPI spec with Llama C++, so that works. And the issue is, oh, I will probably have to create an index on it. So I have the extension on using Vector PG. So that's not the thing I'm worried about. Yeah, I think it's something like this. As I need it to be the right, not bun. Let's go with SQLX. Gorm. Okay. I'm using SQLX. ad break ends in a minute and a half. So yeah, here's the problem. I don't know. I'm not actually going to be doing cosine ops on this. Like, I'm not doing distance approximation. Oh! Pedro thinks that vector PG is a way to make vector graphics in the browser. It thinks that's how you make SVG files. It has... For being an LLM, you have no clue how you work, do you, Pedro? No clue. We're gonna have to figure out indexing. Seems legit. Yeah, Kara, it's pretty legit. Pretty legit. Too legit to quit. So we only need to import this. So this, I'm leaving this here. I already have that. Add a vector column. So I think... what I'm going to have to figure out... is this needs to right here... I want it to return this. But I don't think that that's like... I want it to return that. Like, I think... Just for now. Let's just do this. We'll do vector PG there. I have to go get it, so give me a minute. And then we go to types. This is the type it needs to be. What is your favorite coding language and why? What is your... Okay, chat. Please respond. Nobody has brought up brainfuck, and I really think that that's exactly what any good Twitch chatter would do. Would say that my favorite programming language is brainfuck. What do you think, Pedro? That, or I just am... My friends are just big trolls, and I need to interact with nicer people in my life. Yeah, I know I need to do go get. I haven't done that yet. That's the right one, right? Did the poll... Oh, guys, hurry up and vote, or else I get to choose who we raid. And you may not want that. Yep, go get. Okay. Cool. So that's, yeah, that's what I'm thinking I want. That doesn't actually change anything there. Well, will you give me a second? And that means that here we would have vector and error. And then we need to turn this into a PG vector, which it says I can do. Yeah. Oh, look at that. Oh, ooh. So this would actually be a slice of new vector, I think. Right? Because we have a slice of slices. So what we have to do, so this would be a slice of PG vector. So we can go for we don't have C normalized vectors. Swap code. Now I have to choose the raid target. Swamp code, the best way to contact me. Discord. You get Nightbot in YouTube, right? Nightbot goes to YouTube. I have to choose the raid target. You did that on purpose. Okay, let's write this code since I'm here in my head. Embeddings I. Okay, so it'd be PG vector new vector. I don't think it was using new vector. PG vector new vector no vectors I, and this would be var embeddings, right? And so then we could just say embeddings equals, oh, and this is going to be a huge, so by using append here, maybe we make this an array of length len vectors for performance. Swamp code, you don't get the Discord link in YouTube from Nightbot? That was my question. There's the Discord link. I keep calling you swamp code, not swap code. So now, missing a return. Return embeddings. So now when we get create embeddings, that is in Twitch. Handle messages. Nightbot isn't rebroadcast to YouTube. Well, that sucks. And that's why Pedro's gonna replace. Pedro is gonna be everything. I love hammers. Go as a hammer, Postgres as a hammer. Pedro's gonna be our freaking Twitch hammer. We're just gonna do everything in Pedro. Oh yeah, I quit doing that. So here, we need to do embeddings. And then if error equals nil, and then chat embeddings equals embeddings. Straight up. And then in types, what? No, chat's supposed to be of type. What do you mean? Whatever. We're out of time. We're out of time. We're out of time. I'm gonna push this because at least. At least we're there. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I want to build a chat. You want me to build a chat bot to chat with me like a human? Like in English, like with words? Then you probably have to use speech to text. I know that OpenAI's multimodal is supposed to have voice to voice, but I'm just not quite there yet. Don't quite get it. So you guys have a ton of fun today. If you enjoyed today's stream, please let me know and I will do more blog postings. If you just like it because of ML, that's also good to know. Please come back. We'll do more streams. Hang out with us in Discord. This week we will be doing a data engineering meetup. So if it will be data engineering for AI. So if you're interested in data engineering, tune into the channel for the meetup. And please follow on Twitch, follow on YouTube, and join the Discord. And we can hang out more. I will see you later.